Hello, and welcome back to another session with me, your girl, the Pantless Planner. Today, we're going to talk about event timeline basics. I got this question recently about how to create a timeline for an event, and it's been something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. So let's dive in. So what is a timeline? A timeline is an internal system or structure that helps you track and dictate priority of tasks and put them in order so that your event can take place. Some other words that are used interchangeably but don't necessarily mean the same thing are agenda, schedule, program, and itinerary. And it all comes down to this is the ultimate key of success in your event, okay? So you can plan, it is part of the planning process, but in order to execute, having a timeline is really, really going to make a difference once the day of happens, right? So what needs to go on your timeline? Everything, just like in everything bagel. Everything that needs to happen, all the things that encompass what needs to happen. So global and local. And so I say global and local, so that way it's like kind of like think global, act local. So everything from opening the gate, cleaning the floor, all of those items. There is a tendency for planners. We retain a lot of the information, right? We know everything that's going on, the vendors' names, the timeline, everything that happens, but our team doesn't. And so your timeline is really going to help you share all of those details that they need in order to execute, so they're not always running to you and asking you questions. Another thing that's really key is people. So who is in charge of what and who do I ask? So let's say you are hiring someone who's just a volunteer or just per diem, like for the day, that's coming in and assisting your event. They haven't been talking with the speakers or the vendors or the attendees as long as you have, right? So having a really clear list of who is in charge of what, who do you ask in case something happens, and what is everyone doing is going to be really, really key to making this a success, right? And basically your timeline, as I said before, is a key to your success. So the more detailed it is, the better it is. And then tasks. What needs to be done before and after that task? And then what are dependencies? Dependencies is a word that we use in project management as well, which is if me setting up the tables for a wedding is dependent on the staff cleaning the floor before, that obviously needs to go before. In other words, if we tie them together, it is clean floor, and then if it's not clean, who do I talk to in order to get the floor clean so I can set up the tables, and then the florist can come in, and then the caterer can come in, and so on and so forth, right? So in an event, there are so many dependent tasks that I need A in order for B and C to happen. And so when you have a really clear linear step-by-step of what needs to be done before and after that specific task, and then who is in charge of that, that's kind of the everything, and it makes it a lot easier for everyone to be able to not only communicate, but to execute, which is what we want. Okay, always have in hand. Now, I am a sucker for sustainability. It's one of my core values. It's one of like just the things in my heart and soul. But when it comes to event planning, I still do analog, right? So physical copies. So what do you need to have in hand? A contact sheet, okay? So this ties back into the people. You need to have a little cheat sheet, I call it, with all of the details and how to contact someone and the backup contact, right? So if my name is Alexandria, I'm the Pantless Planner, and I am in charge of florals, that all needs to be in that contact sheet, right? Color-coded. Make it pretty, make it readable. I also do separate sheets. So basically I'll separate, and later we're going to get into real life examples. I separate teams by color, right? And so then that way, if I am orange or blue, I know just to look at the blue things. I know just to look at the orange things. I know what my team is in charge of, and I also know what is dependent on me, right? Like what tasks depend on my actions. And then I separate it. So if you have a really, really big thing, so this is like throwback to when I was managing the event section of a hotel, basically. I was the event head. and I was a wedding planner. And so I had to deal and coordinate the whole hotel, right? So we're talking about from reception to housekeeping to food and beverage to maintenance, right? Because they were plugging in things and checking things, to bellhops, to everything, right? So it would become a very, very long list. So I would color code it. It would make it a lot easier to read for me as the master holder. But then also I would separate. So I would just give housekeeping their section. Okay, at 10 a.m., clean the rooms. At 11 a.m., clean the bathrooms. At 1 p.m., do a turn down service, whatever it was. Maintenance the same, because sometimes people most people don't like to read. And so if it's really, really long and lengthy and a lot of stuff and it's not really pertinent to them, they're just going to check out and not actually pay attention to it. So I found color coding makes it pretty, makes it readable a lot easier. So they'll pay attention. And then separating the sheet if you have multiple departments or multiple teams and it's a really big production. And then multiple copies. So I always have physical copies of all of these because you can write on it, tear it, share it. And the real reason is like phones die. So I usually have like 4 personal copies. I know I need to get better, especially about sustainability. I would leave my copies around. And so, but always having backup, right? So you'll always have someone who doesn't have a sheet or they left it somewhere. So I would have a little clipboard and I would have multiple copies and then I could just give it out to someone. And this is really your communication piece with all of your team, right? So even though we are the key planners and we plan everything and orchestrate everything and logistically set everything up and it's beautiful, we also retain all of the information, meaning we're the gatekeeper. And so it's very hard to execute an event when you're getting pulled into 15 different directions, right? So this avoids it. Having multiple copies, you don't know what you're doing, here it is. Here's absolutely everything you need to know, what needs to be done at what time, who to contact, what the color is, who the team is, go. You don't need me. And it avoids a lot of you because if you're planning an event, depending on what your role is, whether you're a retreat host or a conference producer or festival producer, there is a part of crowd management that you have to do in being the face with the person that you're working with, right? So if it's your own event, then you're the face even more, and people are going to want to come up and talk to you and chat. And if you are planning for another company or another person and running something for them, the people who have hired you or that you're in charge of or responding to are going to want to chat with you. So by doing this, you're going to carve out some space for yourself to be able to talk to, engage with, and be able to kind of manage people, crowd control kind of thing. Don't do this. So this is what you don't want to do. We did the do's, the must-haves. Here's the don't. And I say to make your and everyone else's life easier, because boy, ain't that the truth. So update your timeline. Don't not update your timeline. You can't make your timeline now for an event that's 6 months after. I always do it, a week before, a month before, where there's minimal changes, because there can be things that happen. A vendor got sick and had to pull out, or the contact is someone else, or the delivery truck is rerouted, or whatever it is. So update your timeline just like you update your budget. Buffering. Okay. This is a really key piece, and I'm doing a video later today on logistical thinking, and I'm going to have a practice in logistical thinking, so make sure to look out for that video as well. One person takes, let's say, 1 minute to do something in this example. 200 people to do the same thing can take 2 hours. And this is a really common mistake, so they don't buffer. I always do about 15 minutes buffer, right? So like arrival time, 6:30. We're going to start at 6:45 because people are going to be late. People are going to take extra time. Sorry, my computer was beeping. So what it takes you, so people always plan for themselves, and that's a really big mistake, right? So what it takes you time to do something very efficiently, it's going to take a multitude of people so much more, right? So I used to give workshops, and I mean, coming up will be more, but I gave this workshop live, and I actually would have people stand up, hug the person to their left, hug the person to their right, and sit down. And I would time them. And just the fact of standing up, hugging someone, hugging another person, or introducing themselves would take, because of the amount of people, we're talking 30, 40 people at a chat, about 15 minutes, because one person would take 2 minutes, but then the other, or maybe they would take advantage and like go to the bathroom or move, or also say hi to a friend that was a couple rows down. And so by the time the whole room was quiet again and I had their attention, it was about 10, 15 minutes, right? And so it was a great exercise to show people that, like, for me to do that, that's really quick. Like, I go to the bathroom super quick. A line of women are going to take an hour to go to the bathroom, because some people check their hair or their makeup or their lipstick or their dress or whatever. I'm like in and out, right? So you can't plan for yourself. You have to always plan for the multitude of people, the amount of people that you're planning for, and understanding that you have to buffer. Okay. And in not buffering, it actually pushes your timeline back. So if you're 5 minutes on something late, for example, starting, it doesn't translate at the end of the timeline to 5 minutes. It translates to sometimes half an hour to an hour. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. And so by not buffering, if you have extra time, amazing. Let people chat, let them mingle, let them network. Not buffering and having a minus time or a negative time slot actually creates more issues, right? And then not having a clear format. So I just put it in capital because I am very expressive, and it just needs to happen that way. Everyone plans differently, but Excel is something that you can't get around, or Google Sheets, in planning, right? Please, 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 if you just take one thing from this video, do not, and I will say it again, do not put your timeline on a Word document. And Excel is a really clear format where you can add notes in. There's lines for clear separation. There's color coding and different things that you can add in that allow you to have a structure that anyone can read. So if you're afraid of Excel, there's also another video about Excels. Email me. We will have a session for free. We'll talk about it. But it's really a great tool. It's very universal. It's very, very versatile. And it's really the only format that you want to have an itinerary on. Okay. So let's break it down. How do you create a timeline, right? Here are all the do's and the don'ts. And you're like, but what is a timeline? So you want to start with an agenda or a program, right? And I'm about to show you an example of what that looks like. An agenda or a program is something that you share externally. So, for example, a baby shower or a wedding, you have, ceremony, cocktail, dinner, a dance, close. A baby shower, you have like arrival, surprise, gifts, food, mingling, games, and goodbye, right? So it's the general step-by-step breakdown of what's going to happen. Another big tip here is a lot of people don't share their agenda or program, and they actually keep information from their guests, which actually keeps them not only guessing, but doesn't allow them to participate. So if I arrive to a place and I know that as soon as we start, the starting time is 7 p.m. And as soon as we start, we have like an introduction of the main speaker, I'm going to boogie to make sure that I'm there at 7, right? If it's like arrival 7, end of event 10, and no one knows what's going on in between, they're not going to actually cooperate. So the more information you give them, the more tools you give them, and the more they can actually help you. Okay, so make sure to create one. It can be really simple, but share it. And then so in creating your itinerary, you're going to take your agenda or program that you shared, and then we're going to break it down. Okay, step by step, what needs to happen so this can happen, so the next thing can happen, and what are the dependencies, and then optimization, and very key, information sharing, right? Because we have to share the information with our team. Sharing is caring. Okay, so this is like an example This is actually an event that happened that I assisted on, just like with the itinerary part and the logistical part. And this was what I was sent. So this was the program that was shared, right? Very simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Basically, it was just the DJs that were playing at this festival. Okay. I turned that into this. Okay. So let's not get overwhelmed yet. Let's just take a breath. Everything's going to be okay. Right. So you see that this person started at 3 p.m., but things need to happen before. The bar needs to be stocked. The gates need to be open. The place needs to be checked. The registration needs to be set up. People need to register. The tables, everything needs to happen before, right? So that's where this comes in. So you can see we started at 1 p.m., which was still a little tight, but bar food up and setup, decor and check, VIP setup, system debrief, right? Team meetings are very important. Festival starts right here at 3 and then it continues on, right? So here are the key things that you want to have in an itinerary. See that the time, right? So this can be in 30-minute intervals, 15-minute intervals, however your life is content with, that's fine. The one thing is, do it with what works, right? So it doesn't have to be a like 101, 102, like that's too much, but 105 and 115 and then 130, something like that, some sort of flow. Relevant notes, right? So here we have quality control, lost and found, send one out 20 minutes. Oh, okay. So this is like staff break, right? Like when am I sending my staff to go to a break? Like they can't just work until 10 p.m. without even resting or eating. So sending them out, like those are details because we're dependent on staff to actually make things go and keep running, right? So if they aren't fed or watered or have gone to the bathroom, they're not going to do a great job and they're going to really hate you and never want to work with you again. So relevant notes to the action that needs to be taken. Detailed action and tasks. So, money and ticket runs, check in with all staff, right? And then color-coded teams. See, that's the money team. There's the VIP team. There's the ticketing team, security, DJ and music, staff lead, food, security, like all of these things, right? So it's like, and ignore my colors because they're kind of like off on this one. This was like the pre up to last. So, but you can see money, green. This is purple. This is, VIP is pink. DJs are yellow. So, right, there is some where I can see if I'm a powder person, there was one specifically in charge of powder because it was a color fest. I have 1, 2, 3 things that I care about, right? So instantly my eyes are drawn here, right? Second, powder spray. Great. That's all I need to know. Okay. And then it goes on. So the other important thing is a key code, right? So here were the colors, right? Powder purple, ticketing, money green, the notes, and then the team members and clear roles. So I wasn't here and really it was a smaller staff. And so a lot of the team members were the lead and then they just had volunteers. And so I didn't really have the name of all of the volunteers. If not, that would have been here and then the lead would have been here. But then you can see when we talk about staff has a specific person. DJ and music, that was a specific person. Security, that was a specific person, right? And then contact sheet. This is an example. There will be a digital template that you can buy. This is what I call a cheat sheet, right? And so this was kind of the example that I gave before, which is the name of the person, the company, item or category, right? This is vendor or speaker. You also want to have an attendee one, depending on how big the event is. If it's a festival with like 200 people, you don't need to know everyone's name. You just need one for like registration. But if it's like a retreat where you have 12 people, you want to know their name. You want to know their time they're arriving. You maybe want a picture. You want their number. You want to know if they have specifics or anything like that, right? So item or category, right? Like florist, event planner, their number, what time they're supposed to arrive, who is their backup contact, secondary number, and details, right? So This person, Alexandria, needs electricity and the attention of the staff upon arrival, because I'm the event planner for this example. And I'm also going to bring the cake. So that probably means I need space within the fridge for the cake. So we have to check and make sure that that happens. Do you see how everything kind of starts to tie in? Joanna, she's amazing, a florist. None of these numbers are real, by the way. She's going to arrive at 11:30, and she needs water, a trash can to set up the flowers. So she's probably going to cut on site. So we need a little area. It needs to be cleaned before and after. And you know what? She has a tendency of getting lost. So we're going to meet her at the gate, right? So whoever it is, if they have this, and this, you're not really needed. You can just check. You can just go in and make sure that everyone is where they need to be at the time they need to be, that things are happening in accordance to how it's been planned. Okay. So they don't need to call you and say, hey, Alex, I need Joanna's number. Here's my phone. Oh, my phone's dead. I can't call them. No. You need to call the florist. Here's their number. They don't pick up at that number. Here's this number. Get it done, kind of thing. Okay. So to summarize, the main things that you want to do is dummy proof it, right? Like there's a book for dummies, like event planning for dummies, things like that, right? So write out all the details, get it out of your head and on paper, right? Out of your head onto paper. Because also when you start to write it out, you start to see where there's gaps. You know what? I didn't think about the fact that the gate needs to be open. I didn't think that it's a 2-kilometer walk from the gate to the house. Maybe I should have someone picking up people to really help so they don't arrive sweaty, whatever it may be. And then, because remember, those are the papers that you're going to hand over. So it needs to be really clear. You have all of the information. You have been working on this event for however long, hours, days, years, months, whatever it is. So you need to make sure that you're getting it all out so that other people can understand it. Multiple copies, print it out, hand it out, spread it out. Make sure that you have multiple copies printed that people can share, right? So your volunteers, everyone gets a copy. Team leads, everyone gets a copy. If you want to like be a little bit more sustainable, then team leads, everyone has a copy. But if everyone has their own copy, they can make notes on it. They can, like, some people cross off, some people tear off, some people write in. So making sure that people have their own physical copy, because technology fails. So there's always someone who forgets to charge their phone or their computer at events. So it's like you can't depend on electronics. You don't want to whip out your laptop in the middle of the event, or an iPad, or even your phone. Trying to look at like something like this on your phone is a nightmare. It's like hard to read right now. So if this is printed and this is a full page, you can see it really clearly and even make more notes. And then be clear and concise. Okay. There is a saying, clear is kind. So that goes back to dummy proofing it, but have a meeting with everyone who's involved, all of your staff, and it's a team takeover or a team handover where you answer all the questions. So I emailed you this, you revised it, and now we're having a meeting and you can ask me questions. And the good thing is they know what's going to happen before day of, right? So before their arrival, they already know. They already know what the event planner's name is. They already know who the floral is. They already know who the DJ is. They've been introduced. They have their numbers. They're acquainted. They can hit the ground running. And that's really, really what you want. And then if there are questions that show up, it's either because it's not clear, or maybe you forgot, or they're just trying to understand, which is also amazing. So it's a great and really important to also have a meeting before, and that you're clear and concise and allow time for that takeover handover process. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and then check out my website. We still have a promo for Black Friday running. And then if you want to follow on the gram, you can. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and good luck creating.